Today, I want to talk about the FOMO of AI, the fear of missing out. And there's a lot of risks of AI, and I to do a video about it, like and rank that based on risks affect us personally and risks that we can do something about, risks that we can't. And so like I I can know where I should be worrying and where I should be doing something. But I want to talk about today fear of missing out. So I had a friend a fellow writer who I was talking to this weekend, and she is a little older than I am, but she is very, very technologically savvy and forward looking. So instead of retiring, she is focusing on learning how to use this AI thing in order to figure out if she can do cool stuff with it. And it is an extremely unpopular decision. She is getting pushback against this from all the writer and creator communities that she is in. And we were talking about this, and it reminded us a lot of the old days of word processors, of the internet, of self-publishing. So the idea is that creativity isn't real. It's not real art. It's not real writing unless you use existing tools. If you use a new tool, it is not real. So if you're typing your novel on a typewriter, it is real writing. If you're using a word processor, you can just move stuff around. It is no longer real writing. This used to be a thing. This was actually a thing, and some writers were like, I'm never going to use this newfangled computer thing because it's all bogus and it makes all the writing homogenous and bland and useless. People said that. This was a real thing. When the internet first came out, and I remember this as a journalist, there was a huge stigma against journalists who worked online. Online media was not real journalism. People who had YouTube channels did it under pseudonyms because it wasn't real to have a YouTube channel. Writers who had blogs under pseudonyms because it was embarrassing to tell people, if you were a real journalist, that you had a blog. Real journalists had editors and deadlines and traditional audiences and print publications, right? And they made real money. A blogger wasn't any of those things. They weren't edited. They didn't have deadlines. They didn't make any money, right? It was not real journalism. And one of the differences that made it not real, other than the fact that there was no editors, no gatekeepers, no money in it, was also that it was too easy to do. Writing a novel with a word processor was too easy compared to writing with a typewriter or writing longhand. And therefore, it wasn't real because it was too easy. um, Being a blogger was too easy compared to traditional journalism. With traditional journalism, you did college, you did internships, you struggled to find a job, you worked endless hours in a high stress environment when you were first starting out. Journalism was like really, really tough. I mean, it still is. It's never been a particularly easy profession. It seems glamorous on TV, but in real life, it's hard. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of low pay. And journalists had to pay their dues before they got to the fun assignments where they could write just their opinions and their off the cuff thoughts. And a blogger could just do it. They could just write their opinions without having spent 10 years earning the right to write their opinions. And this didn't seem fair It's not fair that it's now so easy for someone to just get on their computer and start publishing their opinions to the whole world, or start covering politics, or like literally anything. You didn't have to work your way up to it. You could just jump right in and do it without having to jump through all the hoops and pay all the dues. It was not fair. It wasn't right. It wasn't ethical or moral. Yeah, this was a thought that bloggers were bad people, right? And it was embarrassing to admit that you had a blog or a YouTube channel, because real journalists didn't do it. And this kept some professional journalists away from embracing new media, because it wasn't real, right? It would hurt their reputation. It would hurt their professional standing. People would think worse of them. And even if they didn't think that, they would have the internalized feeling of, this isn't right, this is too easy, this isn't real, and I shouldn't be doing this, right? It's beneath me to do this. When self-publishing came about and people could just upload a book to Amazon and 5 minutes later they're a published author, this was too easy. That this was going to be, ushering an age of slop and self-published vanity books that had no editing and were useless and nobody would read them. And it was embarrassing to tell people that you were self-published. And it still is. In the writing groups where I'm a member, most writers are still looking for an agent. They're still looking for a traditional publisher, because there is still a stigma, both external and internalized, against self-publishing, even though people who self-publish their books make good money, even though traditional publishers don't really spend anything on marketing and author development like they used to, or put in all the effort in editing like they used to. They kind of expect the author to show up with a polished manuscript and an audience that's already waiting for their work, a social media profile, a big online presence. They're not like building an author's career the way that we romanticize it having been in the past. With traditional publishing, you only get one shot. If your first book doesn't do well, you're not going to get a second book from that publisher. Your best case scenario is to start over again with a new pen name. When you self-publish, you build your career. Your first book can sell 5 copies. Your second book, 50 copies. Your third book, 500 copies. With a fourth book, maybe you'll hire an editor and you'll sell a few thousand copies. With the next book, you'll invest some money into cover art and you'll sell even more copies. And you can build a career slowly over time at your own pace, around your interests. You can find a niche audience that traditional publishers are overlooking, or you can target a big audience that's hungry for this kind of content. There are so many successful self-published authors out there right now, and the numbers are tilting in their favor in terms of their incomes and in terms of control over their own careers. So it's no longer the case that it's the worst option, that self-publishing is what you do if you can't find a traditional publisher. Many authors are just starting out with self-publishing. They enjoy self-publishing. Some of them switch to traditional publishing when a traditional publisher finds them and says, oh, you're doing really well. How about you come over to our side and we will take care of the marketing and distribution for you, and you could just write. And some take the deal and some don't. So that's still in the process of changing. So and it's been years since we've had self-publishing out there. So changing people's perception of something takes a lot of long time. But if you miss this opportunity, you might be struggling for years trying to get your first novel accepted by a traditional publisher while you revise it and you revise it and you revise it. Instead, you can be over on the self-publishing side, building an audience with multiple novels and learning from actual reader feedback, what works and what doesn't, instead of trying to guess what a publisher will want. And publishers accept so few books. It is such a lottery. Whereas with self-publishing, every book can be published. And if you find an audience for it, you've got your career, right? But you're in control of it. It's not some outside force that's in control. So I think the same thing's happening with AI, and that is what my friend is looking at. That this is a new opportunity and a new creative medium. You can do stuff with AI that you couldn't do before. And exploring the possibilities means that you will get this opening up of opportunities that other people are ignoring because they're saying it's not real art, it's not real writing, it's not real this, it's not real that. And because there's a moral failure to using AI. And I see this a lot, and I hear that a lot in the writing, editing, and art communities. That using AI shows that you are a bad person. It is a moral failing to be using AI because the data is stolen. But even if the data isn't stolen, it's still bad because of the whole data center thing. But even if you're not using a data center, even if you're just using a local AI, it's still bad because it's like big companies. But even if you use a small company, it's still bad. It's still a moral failing, right? There's really no way to win. And that's and so we've seen this with every new tool that's come out. And I do believe that AI is a tool, that AI can be misused, that there are huge risks of AI. And we're seeing a lot of those risks right now playing out on the international stage. Like, oh my God, the risks are huge. But as is the risks of any new technology, right? That is a separate issue from the issue of using it as a tool for either personal productivity or for productivity or for creativity. And that's something that I think that we will just adapt to and we'll forget we ever worried about it. So all of us now use word processors, and even those of us who are old enough to remember when they were new have forgotten what it was like when people were transitioning. And so, like, every journalist now works for an online publication because every publication is now online. And even those of us who are old enough to remember might have forgotten what the transition was like, that there was a big stigma, that it was a point of moral failure if you were getting your news online versus getting your news from a traditional print publication. Traditional print publication was superior. It was edited, although plenty weren't. It was reliable, though we had plenty of tabloids that weren't. That it was real. It was real journalism and real news, even though plenty of traditional publications aren't, right? But there was still that conception that the old traditional way of doing stuff was the good, moral, ethical way. And the new way of doing stuff was automatically the bad, immoral, unethical way of doing things. And I think a lot of it is just projecting our fear of change on the technology in both appropriate and inappropriate ways. It is appropriate to worry about privacy violations, cybersecurity problems, global geopolitical risks of AI. Those like appropriate risks. It is appropriate to worry about energy consumption and appropriate to worry about copyright issues and stuff like that. But then we're projecting it on everything related to AI, including on AI that's used responsibly and ethically and morally and without data centers and without pollution and without big companies owning all your data and violating all your privacy. And that kind of black and white thinking is, I think, can be hurting a lot of people and making them miss out on the opportunities that early adopters will be able to grab. And that's a shame because some of those early adopters are pretty dodgy. And maybe like sometimes the experienced journalists and experienced artists and the experienced writers should have those opportunities instead, right? So yeah, so I don't know what those opportunities are yet. I'm definitely keeping my eye out on it because I do think that they are coming, and there will be a stigma associated with it, and I feel it in my heart because, like, for example, I've subscribed to a bunch of AI newsletters, and I'm like, oh, these newsletters are all AI generated, and I instantly feel that, oh, they're not real. They're not real. Even though I subscribe to them and read them and follow their links, and the links are all like reputable and reliable, and clearly the newsletters are edited and curated, and there's humans behind them, like making sure all this stuff is accurate. But there's still that feeling like, oh, these are AI. They're not real, right? If a video on YouTube seems to be like AI generated, or there's just a voiceover and not a person, I'm like automatically assuming that it's fully AI generated. I downvote it. I don't follow the channel, right? So yeah, so I definitely have that in myself. Like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to pay attention to it. I don't want to feel like it has any value. But some of it is going to have value. Some of it is going to be useful. And there's going to be a lot of AI slop. But it's not all going to be AI slop, right? So there's a lot of self-published books that are unreadable, but not all self-published books are unreadable. There are a lot of blogs that aren't worth following and have like no readership, but not all blogs are worthless, right? And we equate the two. So most AI is slop, therefore all AI is slop. A lot of AI is derivative and useless, therefore all AI is derivative and useless. And I think when we have that attitude, we're closing ourselves off from opportunities. And for people who are in exposed careers, like writing, like journalism, like marketing, advertising, all the commercially oriented artistic fields like stock photo images, that kind of thing. So if you're in any of those exposed fields, you should really be experimenting with the creative possibilities of AI. And it's hard to do when everybody around you is like, oh, this is evil, that this is the devil's work. Like, no reasonable human should like go near it with a 10-foot pole. And it's like a matter of pride. Like, I will never use AI. I will never use ChatGPT. I will never use any of this. So yeah, it's tough. But at the same time, you do want to carve out the human element because that's the only part that is defensible. If something is created by AI, then someone else can create it with AI. and you do not have like any particular value. Like if I, use AI to make mugs, anybody else can use AI to make the same mugs. My mugs are no different from their AI mugs. Why am I in the business of making mugs if all my mugs are AI generated? It's the human element that adds that value and uniqueness and defensibility for a product or service. So it is really important to keep that in. The trick is to find the balance. What is the part that is my human value? What is the part where I can use AI as a tool? And that's going to be the thing that I am going to be working on this year to figure out what that line is. It's going to be different for everybody. And there's a lot of possibilities of using AI as tools to kind of magnify what you as a human are doing. So you still have your human stuff, but it's now on top of a bigger and bigger pyramid of AI work. So kind of like if all you have is a shovel, you're going to make a very small garden. But if you got a bulldozer, you can build a giant farm, right? Um, so yeah, so the tools let you do more, and you can do bigger things and qualitatively different things than you could without those tools. So yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about this week. I'm also worrying about all the geopolitical stuff, and in fact, I'm writing an article about the geopolitical stuff and how it's going to affect cybersecurity. And yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely keeping an eye on that side of it. Oh, and I'm horrified about the some of the ways that AI is being used, like offensively, like in the military. That is terrifying. We've all seen the Terminator movies. We all know about Skynet. We need those guardrails. We need checks and balances. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. We know this. Anyway, all right. That's it for me. I will want to see if I can get that AI risks video up and running. I'm also rounding up all the craziest AI stories that happened so far this year. So if you have any ideas for crazy AI stories that I might have missed, leave them in the comments below. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.